I was making dinner when my mother-in-law said, "You'll never be enough for my son." She threw the food on the floor and told me to clean it up before he got home. My husband walked in, took off his coat, and stepped over me. That night, I packed a bag. A month later, they opened the door and saw me standing there with. I was 29. Married to Kyle for 2 years. We lived in Roanoke, Virginia. Nothing fancy, just a quiet neighborhood with families and retirees. I worked full-time at an accounting office. Kyle worked in HVAC. We met at a local bar and dated for a year before we got married. I thought he was kind. I thought he respected me. I didn't know what I was walking into with his family. His mother, Susan, made it clear from day one that she didn't like me. She was the kind of woman who smiled with her teeth but not her eyes. She'd say things like, "Oh, that's what you're wearing," or "I guess not everyone likes to cook from scratch." Always under the radar. But over time, it got worse. Kyle never said anything. He'd roll his eyes or make jokes. "She's harmless," he'd say. "Don't let her get to you." He didn't get it. Or maybe he didn't care enough to get it. Things blew up after she moved in. She had trouble paying rent after she retired early, her words, and Kyle, without asking me, told her she could stay for a little while. I didn't want to seem heartless, so I said okay. That was my mistake. She took over the house. The guest room, then the guest bathroom. Then she was always in the kitchen, watching me like I was doing something wrong. She criticized everything. My cooking. My cleaning. The way I talked. She went through our bedroom more than once, I know because she left drawers half open. When I told Kyle, he shrugged and said, "She's just adjusting." No. She was taking over. But I kept trying. I wanted to keep the peace. I kept hoping Kyle would stand up for me. Then came the night that broke everything. It was a Thursday. I'd had a long day at work, 9 hours at my desk, my back hurting, eyes dry from staring at a screen. But I came home and started cooking Kyle's favorite meal, chicken and dumplings. I even stopped at the store on the way home to get fresh herbs. Susan was on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She didn't offer to help. Just watched. Halfway through cooking, she walked into the kitchen and stood beside the stove, arms crossed. Trying to poison my son with this greasy mess? I didn't look at her. I just kept stirring. "Answer me," she said, stepping closer. "This is garbage. He deserves better. And you think making this slop makes you enough?" Still, I didn't speak. I didn't trust myself to. Then she did something I'll never forget. She grabbed the pot off the stove with oven mitts, turned around, and dumped it all onto the kitchen floor. The dumplings, the broth, the chicken, everything splashed everywhere. I gasped. I just stood there frozen. "Clean it up," she said, "before he gets home. And do it right. Don't let him see what a mess you made." I dropped to my knees with a roll of paper towels, trying to stop the broth from leaking under the fridge. My hands were shaking. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. But I didn't. Then I heard the door. Kyle walked in, dropped his keys in the bowl by the door, hung up his coat. He looked at the mess, at me on the floor, and stepped right over me to get to the fridge. He didn't say a word. I just knelt there, covered in broth, and stared at his back while he poured himself a glass of sweet tea. That was it. Something in me broke clean in half. I got up, went upstairs, packed a small bag. I took my wallet, a few clothes, and my birth certificate. I left. No screaming. No goodbye. Kyle didn't come after me. I stayed with my sister in Richmond for a few weeks. I didn't tell her much at first. I just said I needed space. She didn't press. I got a temporary job doing admin work. I started thinking clearly again. About everything. And I called a lawyer. That house, our house, was partly paid for using money my dad left me when he passed. I used that for the down payment. The rest came from both our incomes. I had proof. And Susan? She was nothing. No lease. No rights. Just a guest. I had every reason to fight. I spent weeks pulling records, printing statements, and writing everything down. I made a list of every insult, every date, every detail. The lawyer told me I had a case. A strong one. 1 month after I left, I went back. It was raining. I had my lawyer's paralegal with me and a local sheriff. I had the court order in my bag. When Kyle opened the door, he looked stunned. Susan came up behind him, wearing one of my old sweaters. My sweater. I handed them the papers. The sheriff said, loud enough for both to hear, "She has a legal claim to the property. You're being served notice to vacate within 72 hours. Any violation of this order will result in legal action." Susan turned pale. Kyle just stood there. I didn't say much. Just looked at both of them and said, "You stepped over me like I was nothing. Let's see how you do without me." Kyle tried to speak, but the words didn't come. His mouth opened, then closed again. His hands twitched at his sides like he wanted to grab something, maybe the paper, maybe me, but he didn't move. He looked smaller than I remembered. Susan, on the other hand, didn't stay quiet for long. "You ungrateful little, this is my son's house. You think you can just show up and take everything?" The sheriff stepped forward. "Ma'am, you're on private property and your name is not on the deed. You have 72 hours to remove your belongings. You are not allowed to contact the plaintiff directly from this point forward." She looked at me like she wanted to claw my eyes out. "This is your fault. You're tearing this family apart." I stayed calm. "No, Susan. You did that the minute you threw my dinner on the floor." The paralegal handed Kyle an envelope. "These are additional documents outlining the terms of property division and the temporary restraining order pending full court proceedings." They both just stared at it. I didn't wait for them to respond. I turned around, walked down the steps, and got in the car. The rain was coming down harder now. I didn't look back. That night, I got 3 missed calls from Kyle. No voicemails. Just the calls. Then came the texts. "Can we talk? Why are you doing this? We can fix this." I didn't answer. Then Susan texted me from a different number. I blocked it immediately. The next day, I got a call from my lawyer. Kyle had filed a countermotion claiming I had abandoned the property and that Susan was a dependent relative who needed housing. He was trying to play it like I'd just walked away and they were left holding the pieces. But they underestimated how much I had documented. I had emails, texts, bank records, and even photos of bruises on my hand from when Susan shoved me once and I hit the counter. I had everything. I showed up in court 2 weeks later with a binder and a calm face. Kyle and Susan were sitting together in the front row. She had her hand on his knee like they were the victims in all of this. When the judge asked me to speak, I didn't cry. I just told the truth. I told them about the night she dumped my food on the floor. About how my husband stepped over me. About the constant insults, the way she invaded my space, the fact that I was shut out of my own life. When I finished, Kyle wouldn't look at me. Susan leaned over and whispered something in his ear. That's when the judge looked at both of them and said something I'll never forget. "It's clear to this court that emotional abuse took place in this home, and that the plaintiff was not only mistreated but intentionally pushed out." Then she ruled in my favor: temporary control of the house, exclusive occupancy, and a restraining order against Susan. But that wasn't the end. Because 2 days later, someone slashed my tires. And I had a strong feeling it wasn't a stranger. I found the tires slashed early that morning when I came out to go to work. All 4, ruined. Deep, angry cuts. Whoever did it wanted to send a message. I stood there for a long minute, hands shaking. Then I called the police. They came out, wrote a report, and asked if I had any idea who might have done it. I didn't hesitate. My ex-mother-in-law. Or maybe my ex-husband. They'd both got motive. The officer raised an eyebrow. Any proof? Not yet, I said, but I'll find some. I had a security camera installed above the garage a week earlier. I hadn't told anyone. I checked the footage from the night before. There, at 2:13 a.m., was a dark figure in a hoodie. Small build. Short strides. Susan. She wasn't even smart enough to hide the way she walked. She limped slightly on her left side, a bad ankle she always complained about. You could see her hobble. You could also see the way she crouched beside each tire, how long she took, and the exact moment she raised something and slashed down. Clear as day. I sent it to my lawyer. He sent it to the police. By that evening, a warrant was issued for her arrest. They picked her up the next morning. Cal tried calling me again. Left a voicemail this time. You didn't have to do that. She didn't mean it. She was just angry. She's going through a lot. She didn't even slash them that deep. That last line made me laugh out loud. As if the depth of the cuts somehow changed the crime. Then he said something that stuck. I should have handled things better. But this is just revenge. You're blowing everything up. No, I thought. I wasn't blowing it up. They did that. I was just standing in the ashes now, deciding what to rebuild and what to let burn. But here's where it got messy, eh? A few days after Susan was arrested, Cal showed up at my job. He waited by my car, leaning against the door like he owned it. I almost turned around and walked back inside. You can't be here, I said. You're violating the court order. He raised both hands, like he was innocent. I just need to talk. 5 minutes. That's all. I didn't want to, but I needed to hear what lie he was going to spin. So I listened. He said Susan was getting older. That she had health problems. That she was scared. That the arrest had ruined her. She's not the villain you think she is, he said. I stared at him, deadpan. She threw my food on the floor. She slashed my tires. She made me feel like a stranger in my own life. He didn't respond right away. Just looked down. Then he said the one thing I didn't expect. I'm not living with her anymore. What? I moved out. I couldn't do it. She turned on me the minute the police came. Blamed it all on me. Said I made her do it. Said I was a coward. I blinked. I didn't know what to say. Are you here to apologize? I asked. I don't know, he said. I think I'm here because I finally realized what I lost. That hit harder than I expected. But it wasn't enough. Because just 3 days later, I found out something that made my stomach turn. Susan wasn't acting alone. I found out through the dumbest way possible, Facebook. A woman I barely knew from high school messaged me out of nowhere. Hey, is everything okay with you and Kyle? I saw something weird and thought you should know. She sent me screenshots. Messages between Kyle and Susan. He didn't realize his mother had synced her Facebook account to a shared tablet in her nursing home room. The nurse who found it? A cousin of my old classmate. Small world. The messages were from before the tire slashing. A full week before. Susan, she'll run again if you don't put pressure on her. She's weak. Break her routine. Let her know we're still watching. Kyle, I'll distract her at work. You handle the car. Just don't get caught. Susan, she's too soft. Always was. Kyle, this'll push her. Maybe scare her back to the table. My hands were shaking so bad I nearly dropped my phone. He hadn't just been standing by while she hurt me, he was helping her. He planned it. All the fake apologies. The voicemail. The I moved out crap. A setup. Maybe to get sympathy, maybe to mess with my head. Either way, he was just like her. I sent the screenshots to my lawyer, who sent them straight to the DA's office. Suddenly, Cal wasn't just a bystander anymore, he was a co-conspirator in a property damage and harassment case. Felony level. That's when things really started to fall apart, for both of them. The police arrested Kyle outside the HVAC warehouse where he worked. Word spread fast. Small town. His boss didn't even let him clean out his locker. Just tossed it into a box and handed it to his dad. Susan, meanwhile, got transferred to a senior care facility where they could watch her 24/7. She wasn't happy. She called the lawyer's office 3 times trying to scream at someone. Every call was recorded. I finally stood in court across from both of them. Kyle wouldn't look at me. His face was pale, hands cuffed in front. Susan looked worse. Thinner, meaner. Like bitterness had become her only food. The judge listened. Read the texts. Played the voicemails. When it was my turn to speak, I looked at both of them and said, I'm not standing here because I want revenge. I'm standing here because I want it to stop. I want to breathe without wondering if I'm being watched. I want peace. And I want them to learn what happens when you make someone feel like dirt for too long. The judge gave them both 6 months in county jail and 3 years probation, with mandatory counseling. Susan was banned from contacting me for life. Kyle had to surrender his share of the house and pay for the tire damage and legal fees. But here's the part that sticks with me. When I walked out of the courtroom, I felt relief, but not happiness. I looked back once, and I realized I had made a mistake. Not by fighting back, but by staying so long in a house that never felt like home. By giving chances to people who treated me like a servant. By thinking love meant suffering quietly. Never again. I changed the locks. Sold the house 6 months later. Moved to Asheville. Started over. Now, I cook what I want. I eat alone or with friends who smile with their eyes. And I never apologize for taking up space. Let them stew in what they did. I'm done cleaning up after them.